1-1. That's how things get underway for Real Madrid in their group, a group that they share with Pachuca and Salzburg. This is how things are looking so far, just a point apiece for Real Madrid and Al Hilal. Pachuca and Salzburg playing their game tonight. Xabi Alonso just a few training sessions in with his Real Madrid side, as we do welcome back in Frank Leboeuf and also Nedum and Onuoha as well. But if Real Madrid...
Don't even look at me.
Okay.
I mean, right, what are you going to say? What are you going to say? What are you going to say?
If Real Madrid do intend to win this Club World Cup, they're going to have to give a better showing than they gave today.
You were right. Missed me out. I mean, they are. But that was kind of maybe a bit better in the second half. But that was kind of the dull, expected, accustomed to Real Madrid that we saw for the most part of last season. And if Xabi Alonso didn't already know, and I'm sure he did, because he's a smart guy, before taking that job, that there's a lot of work to be done, and that Barcelona, who are not here, are much further down the road in terms of having a team shape, then Real Madrid are going to have to go and spend money. I mean, I don't want to labour the point. I couldn't give a toss if they win this competition or not. Right, it's like winning a can of tomato soup. For them next season, it's all about, you know, winning the league, being competitive in the Champions League, and domestically getting a stronghold in Spain again. And that's going to take a lot of work. And I think we saw that today against a very experienced side from Saudi Arabia.
Yeah, Stevie?
Yeah, there was... For half an hour, they looked as though they were still on the bus. You know, I guess you can give Al Hilal credit. They looked sharper, they looked quicker. But after that half hour, then Real Madrid, I think, were in charge of most things. And the problem Xavi's got is that it's going to take time. As Craig said, it was a little bit, look, like watching last year. And so he's going to have to change a lot of things. And as good and as smart and as good football brains as the players he have, it's going to take time. And the question is, can he get it sorted before this tournament's over and before the start of the season?
So we're getting some quotes after the game. This is Thibaut Courtois saying, after 4 years with Ancelotti, we learned some habits that are difficult to change in 4 days. Xabi wants different ways to defend and attack. We're watching videos and talking a lot. We will learn from this game. Obviously, that's part of his job, Frank, is to change it into his team right now.
Well, it's gonna take time, and Courtois is absolutely right. And when you know football, you know that nothing's gonna change. I mean, you will have to go to the process of getting into the players into another tactic, another way of working, another way of sacrificing. Sorry, for the others, and that's something some players have to learn. But you know, I don't know how the bookies decided that Real Madrid will be the favorites of that competition, knowing and seeing what we have seen for the last season. I think it's only because they wanted to get into that competition so much that maybe the bookies decided them to be the favorites. But really, we won't see during that competition. I don't believe it would be possible before the end of that competition. We won't see something new coming from Xabi Alonso. I think it's impossible. The players are tired. The players are committed to some automatism of what they have learned before with Ancelotti. It's going to take a little while to go into a new system, and it won't be, for me, for sure, during that competition.
Right now, according to the bookies, it's PSG as favourites, Manchester City after them, and then it is Real Madrid who are third favourites. As it stands right now, one thing he is going to have to deal with, though, Nedum, is the defence. We got to see Trent Alexander-Arnold and Dean Huijsen today in that back four for Xabi Alonso. What did you make of their showings?
Nothing too impressive in my opinion, to be honest. But then also we're talking here about a manager who's been there 4 days, as we say, and these two players are coming into a system where those players are probably entrenched in terms of how they played previously. Add in the tough conditions, those two players wanted to make a difference, but not really knowing the overall system. Like, you've got players on the pitch who know the old system, and all the players don't really know the new system, but you've got two new players trying to figure it all out. And how good is, say, Alexander-Arnold's Spanish? You know, how can he communicate in real time? Because, you know, he's been in England, he's been in Liverpool, and he can say anything instantly all of a sudden when you've got to have like a real thought, what's the right thing to say? Am I in the right position? Am I supporting my team in the right way? It gets a little bit more tricky and it's not as natural. So I think at times it maybe did look that way, but it's not to say that they had a bad debut, because in the end, they did a job for the team. But yeah, it's a tough introduction. To be playing in Miami in the middle of June is tough. And to be playing after such a long season again is tough. And with a new manager, these are all difficulties that will be in play here. But in fairness, I think overall they did a good job, and I know there's going to be more to come.
Get no sympathy for them, though, have you? Any club like this who are taking the coin, as they are.
Even in this sweltering heat?
Well, they knew it. They knew it. It's not new. They didn't come in on an aeroplane blindfolded and, it was a lucky dip where they ended up. They knew where they were going to play. So that's their problem. And if they've got a bunch of injuries at the start of the season, that's their problem. And you can go and talk to Florentino Perez, and you can moan and groan if there's hamstrings and calves and thighs and muscle injuries about the lack of rest. Because who's going to have any sympathy for any of these big guns if that's the case? Because if you want to take the money and you want to play all these extra games, you don't want to give your players a rest, then you take the consequences. That being said, on a football parlance, we talked a lot with Real Madrid last year about how one of the best managers in world football, Carlo Ancelotti, had really struggled to find the balance within this team, the balance in the front line between that front three and Kylian and Mbappe, and how to get the best out of him and Vinicius, and I suppose Rodrigo, the problems they had at the back, which were well documented. And all these are issues, but I don't know about you, Stevie, I honestly think the biggest issue he has is finding the right dynamic in the middle of the park, because that is really the engine room of all the teams. And if you looked at Real Madrid last year and a lot of the big games, they got an absolute tanking in the middle of the park. And that put more pressure on the back line, and it meant the supply chain to the front line diminished. Now, you might say, well, the front guys never worked hard enough and blah, blah, blah. That is true. But there is no doubt the evolvement over the years of the Casemiro leaving and then the Toni Kroos retirement and the Luka Modric sort of ending his era, as he will at the end of this Club World Cup at Real Madrid, has had a huge effect on this Real Madrid side. Because Camavinga's physical, Tchouaméni's physical, Freddy Valverde's physical, they've all got great engines, but they all kind of do the same kind of job. And we saw last year at the end of the year, Arda Güler having to come in and play in a central position because he could pass the ball. And look, Modric can pass the ball, but he hasn't got the legs. That is going to be a big position for them.
I certainly don't. I certainly don't disagree with you in the middle of the park, but I think when you look at the best team in Europe and PSG, look at the difference when you have a front three that not only going forward are all in tune, which Real Madrid haven't had. Vinny, Mbappe and Rodrigo, all of last season, were never in tune. We never sat here thinking they're playing really well together, they're interchanging with passes, the movement between them. And then on the other side of the ball, it's the same thing. They don't do enough defensively to help the middle three. So the middle three not only are trying to figure themselves out, but they're not getting any help from the front three. And again, if you look at PSG, it's the complete and utter opposite. So from the middle and the front, never mind the back, because we know Trent struggles defensively. We saw Asensio, who played way too much last year, in my opinion, and may end up doing the same. So Xabi Alonso, it's not as if the only thing he has to do is to try and get the right shape or the right way of playing. He's got so many things to figure out, both defensively, in the middle of the park, and absolutely up front, because good luck, Xabi Alonso, trying to get those three to play together and defend and helping out the rest of the team.
And are they going to listen? He's a guy that's respected as a player and as a coach to an extent, because he's had success very early on. But are they going to listen? Are they going to, what we call in the game, rubber-ear him? Mbappe got a lot of goals last year, there's no doubt. His stats were pretty good. I don't think his performances were always brilliant, but he got a lot of goals, to be fair to him. Vinicius Jr. had this great year the year before, and I think him saw these two more than Rodrigo, who's going to be more of a bit part player. Vinicius Jr. has to sort his head out. When you have a man, when you're disrespecting a man like Ancelotti, when he's basically stood on the side of a pitch 5 yards from you, telling you need to run or you're coming off, that's embarrassing. And you do feel he's got his head up his backside with this whole Ballon d'Or thing. Mm-hmm. Me. It's all about me. When it's really, it has to be about the team. Because when you look at the biggest rivals in Barcelona, and David Stevie mentioned, you could say the best team in Europe in PSG, it was all about the team last year. Luis Enrique realised that very, very early on and said to his board, listen, it's not about superstars. We need to be cohesive as a team. And they were brilliant, as were Barcelona. Real Madrid went into their shell as a bunch of individuals last year, and somehow he has to get them functioning as a unit. Otherwise, he's going to have exactly the same problems that Ancelotti had. And guess what, at Real Madrid, and you know this, it's about results or you're out. It doesn't matter who you are. And so he has to figure this out very, very quickly.
Why would Mbappe listen to Xavi Alonso when he wouldn't listen to Luis Enrique? That's what I've got in my head. Because we know he didn't. We saw the clips. Luis Enrique had him sat down one-on-one, face-to-face, not pleading, but trying to get it through his thick skull that he needs to do more. And judging by his body language, his attitude, it went straight in one ear and straight out the other. So what reason is he going to listen to Xabi Alonso when he won't listen to a guy like Luis Enrique, who's done it as a coach and who's shown without Mbappe that it is all about being a team and not an individual?
And sorry, I know we're going just briefly. And here's the problem: if he doesn't do it, he's got two of them. Because if Mbappe doesn't do it, as you could say, the biggest superstar there. I mean, Vinicius is the superstar, probably the biggest superstar, and that's maybe part of the issue. If Mbappe doesn't show the work rate and desire from the front, from the get-go, how's the other one going to do it? Because he thinks he's his equal. So if one doesn't work, the other one's not going to do it either. And it's going to be, I think, fascinating to watch this La Liga season to see if he can turn it around. But he hasn't only got one of those issues, he's potentially got two of them.
How do you think Mbappe is going to be with Xabi Alonso, Frank?
Like he always been, like doing what he wants. Unless somebody starts saying to him, you're going to go on the bench. I want you to follow me. If you don't follow me, you're going on the bench. And that's the only way to do that is for Xabi Alonso to go to see Florentino Perez and say, give me the keys. I cannot work my system with two players not doing the job and not defending and not being committed to my system. He should have said that before signing, because now it's too late. Because if they don't want, I think the pressure is going to be huge, and he's going to be kicked out. But I would have said that I'm going to sign for Real Madrid. I want to do that. But what do we do for Vinicius Junior and Mbappe? What's going to happen if I put them on the bench because they don't follow me? Then maybe you have an open door. But right now, I don't see a bright future to Real Madrid unless those two players decide to be committed to Xabi Alonso's system, meaning working hard for the team. I don't see that coming.
As for the other team, Nedum, Al Hilal, it's no secret that they've spent a lot of money, but they looked okay today. They look good.
Yeah, they did, yeah. And the funny thing about it is, for most people, this is their first sort of chance to see a team from the Saudi Pro League. The type of league where everyone says, oh, you just go there to retire, or you just go there for the money, and it's no good, and this, that, and the other. I think for long parts of the game, I thought they did handle themselves pretty well. Obviously, they are the underdog in this game, but you look at some of the quality players that they have, and these are very, very good players from around Europe and around the world. And I think they did hold their own. Obviously, at times, it seems like they were running out of steam as such, but when you look at Inzaghi on the bench as well, that tactically they're going to do everything they can to try and stay in the game and maybe have a moment. And yes, maybe on a different day, they maybe score some of the chances that they have. But I think, as Ruben Neves was saying after the game, you come away from the game having drawn 1-1 with Real Madrid, one of the biggest clubs in world football, a team that aspires to win this competition and win everything that they're involved in. So credit goes out to them. But these players, a lot of them on the pitch today, they played against Real Madrid before. And I think at times you could see that shining through. And although the conditions were tough, as I say, I think they held their own.
I just want to say something on this because this is, I think, part of the point about going to Saudi Arabia is they are a very good team and they've got some really good players. And we saw that, and you saw the team sheet. But Simone Inzaghi's gone there for the money. They've all gone there for the money. That's fine. That's their choice. But nobody cares. Nobody cares. They could win the Saudi League next 5 years now. They could win it by 40 points. Nobody cares. Nobody will be talking about it. And that's the point. They've gone over there. We'll talk about Real Madrid next year till the cows come home. We'll talk about Liverpool. We'll talk about Barca. We'll talk about Inter. We'll talk about PSG. Nobody out of Saudi Arabia will be talking about this team. So they can be as good as they want. They can spend as much money as they want. Nobody cares. Right? They've put themselves in a footballing backwater. They can be as good and pick up as much dough as they could fill their coffers with. At the end of the day, outside their average attendance of 17,500, nobody gives a stuff. And that's their choice. But we won't be talking about them, and I dare say, outside of that country, nobody else will next year. And that's the sad part, because a lot of them are players that could be playing at the elite level, week in, week out still. But they're not, and that's their choice.
So 2-0 it finished. We also got to see Rodri come on in the 60th minute for just his second appearance since September. He came on for Phil Foden, but it was Phil Foden who got man of the match in this game. As it stands right now, Manchester City are in the top of their group. Next up for them is Al Ain. Juventus are also in the same group as City. But let me start with you, Nedum, on Phil Foden. Is he going to be a first-choice starter in the new season? Is he throwing his hat into the ring and saying next season's going to be better?
Oh, that's a good question. I think this is a good way to start, with the goal and with the assists. And I don't necessarily think he was brilliant in the game outside of those moments. But it's good to see him start there and to have some of that link up and to have a positive impact. I think the timing of that goal was great for him as well, because he's been very well spoken about that in this last season. It's been terrible for him, relatively speaking, given the fact he was Premier League Player of the Season the year before. But I think some of the link-up was there. There were certain bits of rust and decision-making in terms of not knowing whether to pass to the person at this time. Are you in the right position? But I think that chemistry will come. I think looking at some of the talent that they have, especially now with those attacking areas, I think the link-up play's got potential to be really, really good. So for him to be off the mark and in that manner, it makes Pep think about it. And I think for these group games, Guardiola's spoken about how he's going to be making changes. So this game itself is great. It'll probably look different in the next game. But if they do make it to knockout rounds, then that's when you see what Guardiola really sees as being his best side. Because I think that's when the players who he really has all his faith and all his belief in, they'll start to be starting these games and they'll be playing longer periods as well. But for now, Foden's in there. And I'd say it's good to see him back.
Phil Foden, new season ahead. Fresh start for him.
Well, he had a bad time with England. He had a bad season by his standards last year, there's no doubt. But there's also no doubt he is a supreme talent now. Dare I say it, he's not the only one at Man City, but maybe he could look in the mirror a little bit more and say, am I doing enough? Am I doing enough in terms of my training and the lifestyle and all the stuff that you have to do in this day and age that we didn't really have to do? But today's modern game demands it. And it was kind of sorry to see him be the way he was last year when we've witnessed over the last couple of years prior to that, we've seen him destroy teams. I mean, some of those performances, I remember the game at Anfield, one of the games at Anfield when he played on the right-hand side, coming in on his left foot, pinging the ball in the top corner and just running amok. And I don't know why he got away from that, but, maybe just confidence as well. But he certainly can get back to it. I think City are just an intriguing story, full stop. Because everybody's waiting to see if they can get back to somewhat of this juggernaut team that everybody was frightened to death to play, apart from probably Liverpool and Arsenal. They've bolstered the middle of the park with Reinders coming in from Milan. Nicol Gonzalez was signed for 60 million last January. He hasn't played much, and Rodri's obviously back fit again, so they've bolstered that area. So that shouldn't be such an issue in terms of getting dominated in the middle of the park. Again, the questions will be, the playmakers that they had that lost their form, Foden, Savinho, Grealish struggled, Doku inconsistent, Marmoush came in and looked lively. Can they supply Erling Haaland? And can he figure out a back line that is consistent and has some continuity and can cut out the basic sort of mistakes that they were making. So I think there's so many subplots for Manchester City, but of course Phil Foden getting back to form would certainly help. But I think in these games you're not going to learn a lot apart from, I was going to say players getting their fitness, but I don't know if actually that's what they're doing at this stage of June.
Frank, you watched this game. What stood out to you on the City side of things?
Well, you know, that's funny when Nedum was talking about the good start for Foden. I was thinking that it was more an ending of a season than the start of a new season. I don't think they are in a pre-season. In my mind, they're more finishing the previous season, but whatever. But, well, it's a little bit better, I would say, at some point. And but overall, we could see that the WAC had some chances to score goals, that they're still fragile at the back. They're still looking for something special, but I think they won't find it. It's too early. To make a statement about Foden is too early. To everything, to all the criticals that we can get, I will be too early. But it's a good win. I was happy to see Cherki playing, even if he had a shy start. He has to settle down. He doesn't speak English. He will have to understand what Pep wants from him. But that was interesting to see him playing alongside some others. And let's see how it works for Manchester City. But I'm not convinced. I didn't see anything changing tactically with the pace of the game. It's the same City that I've seen the whole season long before.
City bore, Frank.
Sounds
to be fair, they bored most of us at the end of last year. You have the answer to this
by the
question.
end,
You must have the answer to Frank's question.
the answer to
We're
Frank's
not
question.
continuing with this show until you have the answer to Frank's question. Are we at the end of last season or are we at the beginning of the new season?
Yeah, what came
Where are we,
first, the
Frank?
chicken or the egg, Frank?
The
Don't get
beginning.
no.
Frank, it's the beginning.
Well, I mean, it's really.
Oh,
It
really?
does feel like it's at the end, but it's probably technically is the end. It is the end, but it feels like it's the beginning.
So is Modric staying to the start
what
of the
I
new
mean.
season or is he
That's
finishing
why.
the end of the season?
You know who'll know the answer to this? Nedum Onuoha.
That's right, I do. And let's put it this way. Is the Gold Cup happening at the end of the last season or the start of the new one? Would the Euros be the start of the next one or the end of the last one? I think this is essentially the closing off of the season. But because it's club-based, it feels a bit different. They'll finish this tournament, have 3 weeks off, happy days. It's the last bit of season.
All right, I don't want it to go down a rabbit hole.
No, we should.
Tendency to go down a rabbit hole, particularly with stuff like this. So that's fine. I just thought I'd ask the question.
You know who'll definitely have an opinion on this is Gab Marcotti. Maybe we could make sure he answers that question on the latest Gab and Jules show. That podcast will be dropping wherever you do get your podcasts out twice a week. Make sure to stay up to date with it. So it's been a long time since we last had Craig here in the studio. In fact, it was the final day of the Premier League season, if I'm not mistaken, since we last saw you. You've missed quite a lot of what's gone on in the football world. So we wanted to give you a little refresher and get your thoughts on some of it. Is that all right?
Well, I haven't missed a lot. I've missed everything. I know it now signed for Man
Well,
City.
PSG won the Champions League for the
I saw
first
that.
time
Well,
in
I
their
didn't see
history.
all the game because I was knee deep in Western Supermare alcohol.
Yep, the West Country and
But that-
England. Chelsea won the Conference League.
I actually watched this game.
Yes, beating Real Betis 4-1 in the final.
Well, Real Betis played well for a long period of that game, and then Chelsea came strong at the end. Is that correct?
Yep, so Chelsea there. Cole Palmer key in this final. Cristiano Ronaldo and Portugal won the Nations League, beating Spain in a penalty shootout.
Oh, that's it
He
then.
scored in the final and the semi-final.
Well, that's it. He's absolutely nailed on to lead the line next year here in the United States in the World Cup.
So that's Portugal. Brazil, under Carlo Ancelotti, have qualified for the World Cup in 2026. That's the expanded World Cup. It was a 1-0 win over Paraguay. It was his first win as manager in his second game in charge. So Brazil, as always, will be at the World Cup finals. But when we say as always, the likes of Uzbekistan and Jordan have qualified for the World Cup for the first time in their history. Big celebrations for both of these nations, making it to a World Cup. And they'll be one of the many teams coming up. Are you happy about that, Craig, to see
What's
some
that?
of these minnows, these teams that we haven't seen?
Not particularly, no.
Another big story was managers sacked. Simone Inzaghi leaving Inter.
He wasn't sacked, was he?
Well,
wasn't sacked.
departing.
Yeah, he left. He took the money.
Departing. Luciano Spalletti sacked by Italy. Gattuso's in. Obviously, that's going to be interesting to see how it all goes. Michael Probies resigning from Poland. That's the manager who Lewandowski said he'd never play under for the national team.
Yeah, that didn't make much
had
headlines out of Warsaw.
Something to do with that. Gianpiero Gasperini leaving Atalanta for Roma, leaving. Been there since 2016. He'll be replacing Claudio Ranieri. And Sergio Conceição sacked by Milan. And it will be Max Allegri coming in.
Oh, more
Milan once again.
They'll be good to watch, won't they, Milan?
But the big news, Ange Postecoglou saying goodbye, mate. He is no longer the Spurs manager, replaced by Thomas Frank. And after the winning the Europa League, Ange Postecoglou is no more at Tottenham Hotspur. Are you surprised?
Any news on Elvis?
I don't believe he's with us anymore, to be honest.
How far have we gone
The
back
last
here?
time I heard.
Any news on anybody seen Elvis around in a supermarket or, gone back a bit? Hey, Postecoglou, he couldn't survive in 17th, could he?
Did you vote in FC's 100? That's available now on the website.
The email landed in my inbox and it was in the deleted box within half a second.
So our analysts and writers ranking our best players in the men's game minus Craig Burley's
And
picks
Stevie.
on that.
Stevie never did it.
Stevie didn't get involved either.
I beg your pardon.
That's like Mbappe and Vinny Jr. not doing all the hard yards here at ESPN
Why is Mbappe?
FC.
Why is his big head at the front? It should have been.
Here's some notable transfers so far. Mateus Cunha, Manchester United, obviously Reinders we've spoken about, and at City, Mastantuono, the youngster coming in at Real Madrid, Ait Nouri, you mentioned earlier, Craig Ryan Shirky, Liam Delap to Chelsea, Matthijs Tel to Spurs, and Leroy Sané going to Galatasaray.
You missed out the third one.
Free. Mastantuono, I didn't.
there
I
you
said
go.
the youngster. Are you trying to test me?
I was, aye.
Well, no.
Spurs paid 35 million for Matthijs Tel.
And then Jadon Sancho returning to Manchester United.
Did I miss something with Matthijs Tel? I know he's a talented player, but he didn't.
No, he
what did he
didn't
do
do
at Tottenham?
anything.
This is a kind of João Felix. We've seen the movie, but we're still going to go back in for more.
So Liverpool agreeing a £116 million deal for Florian Wirtz. It will break the British transfer record. Many a team wanted this man, and it's going to be Liverpool who are likely to get him.
Liverpool never spend money, according to Stevie.
No, Thomas. Not me.
I mean, you're going to spend money on a player like this, though.
He's going to be a brilliant watcher.
Aye. Yeah.
We should be for that money, to be fair.
Then, of course, Craig, there was the whole debacle with the US men's national team with Donovan, Pulisic, Pochettino all making
You must
the
be
headlines.
kicking yourself, you missed this.
Yeah.
Christian Pulisic skipping, of course, about to skip the Gold Cup, which is coming up at either the end or the beginning of the season, regarding which way you do look at it. Donovan had something to say about that, it appears, criticising the player at the Nations League final broadcast, using that to have a bit of a shot at him, it would seem. That's definitely how Christian Pulisic's dad saw it, and he asked ChatGPT to explain Donovan's sabbatical in the 2012-2013 season to kind of say, well, you did it too.
Well, at least Christian Pulisic had the stomach to go to Europe and mix it with the big boys rather than just stay here in Major League Soccer and flat trap bully everybody else, which Landon Donovan did, as good a player as he was. He didn't put himself out there to test himself on a... He went to Everton, did okay. I think it found the going a bit tough. But, I'm neither here nor there with this, to be honest with you. Christian Pulisic, he's a good player. He's a very good player for Milan. And I think the US get caught up in this Gold Cup stuff way too much, to be quite honest with you.
And then last but not least, when we're talking about national teams, my mum is repulsed by Jude's antics. This is Thomas Tuchel talking to TalkSport in the UK about Jude's hunger and rage that can come across as a bit repulsive, going on to say that his mum doesn't really like it, and he's a good lad, but it does come across not so well to some people. Basically, probably talking a little bit too much here, Craig.
Who?
Thomas Tuchel.
Well, he's not talking too much, he's just talking utter stupidity. I mean, the England manager talking about his mum. Seriously.
Frank and Nedum are with us.
What the hell's been going on? I've only been away 2.5 weeks, maybe 3.
See a lot of fun you've been missing.
Thomas Tuchel's
Great.
mum. Imagine manager pulling you in. You're an international player of some repute, right? Playing for Real Madrid, wherever you're playing. And the international manager pulls you into it and says, I want a word with you. My mum doesn't like. My mum doesn't like what you're doing on the field. What would you say to that? You know what I mean? I'm really sorry, boss. I won't swear. I won't make any bad tackles. I won't do it. I won't shout it. I won't do that. Will that make your mum happy? We might lose games, but I'll behave myself. Will that make your mum happy? I mean, seriously. It's just utter. What are you laughing at?
It's just stupid, isn't it?
I know, it's just... Is it real?
What's been your... Yeah, I mean,
It is
yes,
real.
yeah, it is
Unfortunately,
real.
It is real, yeah.
It is. So he said that the way he comes across can be interpreted in a bad way. He thinks he's a good lad and he knows it's all passion, but then went on to say, my mum doesn't like it, she's repulsed by this behaviour.
Mum got nothing better to do.
And she doesn't see it, that's how she perceives it from where she's sitting.
You know that saying, the game's gone? We're in that arena.
So what's your pick of the bunch
Territory.
from what you missed?
What
What's
I
your
missed?
pick of the bunch?
I think the whole sort of knickers in a twist, Christian Pulisic, Landon Donovan, it's so typical of this lot over here, this side of the pond. It's just incredible. It's like they get this like US men's national team blinkers on, and it just whenever somebody does something that's out with what they perceive as what should be done, it's like the world's going to end. You know what I mean? It's a 4-minute nuclear warning because Christian Pulisic needs a rest. That has to be it. I think that one, and then Landon Donovan having a pop. You know what I mean? Typical. I'm not making any friends, I know, but I don't think they like me anyway. Most of that lot. And I don't care. They might have figured this out. I actually don't care what they think. But they're very thin-skinned, a lot of them.
Yeah, okay.
They know who they are. I don't need to write to them.
I'm sure they'll let you know on the socials.
I don't go on social media now. I'm done with it.
All right,
I'm
all
done.
of these
I'm
guys
done.
will be back answering your questions on the latest edition of Extra Time. You can keep up with it every single day.
He's still
over
here?
on YouTube. He is
You're
still
tough.
here. Welcome into the latest edition of Extra Time. Frank's here, Nedum's here, Stevie's here, and Craig Burley is back from his vacation.
I actually should pat myself in the back because I actually thought that a walkout was possible today, live on air. I never thought about quitting live on air. I thought always just go quietly. But some things will push your boundaries.
You made it.
How can you go quietly live on air?
No, I was saying when the time does come, whenever that is, I don't know, it could be tonight, tomorrow, a year, two, I don't know. Just go quietly. Just slip away into the. But
That's what Mariner used to do.
you slip off into the. No statements, no flapping, no self-importance for anybody because nobody's that important.
That's what Mariner
But
used to
quitting on air, that's a little different.
Yeah, dipping out without
Club
telling
World
anyone.
Cup, not quite today because we're a little bit. I'd imagine a kind of Pachuca Salzburg. That's a game, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
Aye.
That's got quitting on air written all over it.
Okay.
I would say. But of course, there will be people at that game employed who will be trying to tell you it's the most exciting thing on the planet.
Doing their jobs.
They're taking the money and they're lying.
Paul Mariner used to be a fan of the sneaky
What?
goodbye.
Oh, Paul, aye. Yeah.
Well,
Well, Maris, he wouldn't go around everybody and go, I'll see you later, I'm off, blah, blah, blah.
yeah.
He would just, at the most, he would say, I'm just going to the toilet. And then you wouldn't see him again. He would just slide away. Then half an hour later, you'd be like, have you seen Paul? You'd be like, I have no idea.
I had a mate like
Just
that.
always.
I had a mate like that in the UK, in Nottingham, and his nickname was Trapdoor. Because he'd do the exact same thing. You'd be out having a night out,
Next minute, where's he gone?
12 o'clock, whatever it is, going, where is he?
Cinderella.
Yeah.
Gone.
Down the trapdoor.
No buys. All right, questions.
All right, questions. Yeah, Frank and Nedum are with us as well, but the first question is for you, Craig. Was there ever a time when you were away from the show and you were watching it and somebody said something so egregious that you wish you were there to tell them how bad of a take they had?
Yeah, first line.
Line 1, read it again.
Was there ever a time when you were away from the show and you were watching it?
Read
Stop.
that again.
Stop. Watching it.
It's part of our job, isn't it, to watch ESPN FC every night?
Is it?
Well, now you know.
I must have missed that paragraph.
Now you know.
I had now and again, yes. Not really, no. I mean, there's been the odd time, but he said, I mean, he'll have sat at home, we'll all have sat at home at times and gone, what the hell is he talking about?
Aye.
We've all done it. But yeah, I don't really get that. And when I was in the UK, we don't get it. It's not on in the UK anymore. And I would have given up my free time
Oh, we bet.
at 6, whatever time it is, to watch.
Would you rather watch ESPN FC when you're not on it or the Club World Cup?
No, FC. I'm not watching that Club World Cup.
OK, for the panel, I'll put this to you, Frank. Xabi Alonso says he expects everyone on the pitch to track back and try to regain the ball. Is that going to be a problem for Mbappe and Vinny Jr.?
Of course it will be. They don't want to do it, well, I'm talking about Mbappe. He didn't want to do it with any coaches in Paris, including Luis Enrique. And he didn't want to do it last year with Ancelotti, where I thought, going into a new club, he will make that effort. So why he would do it with Xabi Alonso? Unless, as I said during the show, Xabi Alonso has the right to put him on the bench without Florentino Perez getting crazy and extending him. But otherwise, nothing will change.
Nedum, it's the first time in a long time I've seen City so stacked with players. Do you think this will be a good thing for the new players, or are we going to be another Chelsea?
I don't think it's another Chelsea because not really signing 6 and 7 year deals. But it does feel strange to see the squad be that big because we've previously seen them have a good squad. We'd probably find maybe 16, 17 players who Guardiola would use. Whereas now the depth really is there. I think given the amount of injuries that they had last season, but then the players that they brought in the winter window and then the summer window, it does feel like too much. And listening to Pep talk about how the squad's almost unmanageable, I can kind of see it now based on the players that were just on the bench today, for example. But I don't think it's like a Chelsea situation. But I wouldn't be surprised if maybe 3 or 4 players left in this summer window before the next season starts.
Which player's career, guys, is at the biggest crossroads? Grealish, Rashford or Sancho?
Got to be Rashford, isn't it?
He's gone back to United, right? Have I missed something in my travels?
Well, you missed
not-
everything.
Yeah, but he's not signed for Villa, I don't believe.
Correct.
So he's having to go back to which can only be described as a toxic atmosphere between him and Ruben Amorim and the club. What was it he said? I'd rather play the bus driver or something like that than play Marcus Rashford.
Yeah.
And Marcus Rashford, who, whether he was right or wrong at United, when he went to Villa, he had an impact. And he was better, there's no doubt about that. The crossroads for him now is where he goes. I actually think Jack Grealish is at a real crossroads. Because, I mean, yeah, I do, because I think he's just fallen off so far. I think Rashford's situation is more difficult.
Right.
I think Grealish will find a club if he is one of those players that, as Nedum said he will need to get some players out. If Grealish is one of them, I think he'll find a club. I think Rashford's issue is how he figures it out with the money and the transfers.
Frank's shaking his head. I don't know what at. Frank?
Because I think for me, Sancho. I mean, he has proven throughout the last 2 years that he didn't find his football back, that he doesn't know where he stands, that the money that he received and the transfer fee that he was above his head was too high for his shoulders, and therefore he will have to make very good decisions in order to get back into the football. Meaning maybe he will have to cut his fee, go maybe with a less ambitious big club to regain confidence. But that's I'm not sure he's ready to, like any other players in this era, to make those sacrifices.
The reason I would say Grealish or Rashford is because I think their ceiling is higher. I think Jadon Sancho has got a talent, but I think the other two are potentially better players. at a higher standard. I think Sancho has kind of petered out at a certain level. The other two have shown they can go way above that level, but they've both dropped, and I think that's why I would go with one of those two.
Nedum's interior decorator says, for my client, which City player do you expect to have a breakout performance during the Club World Cup?
A breakout performance. That's a tough one to read. I think you kind of want to see something from the new signings, and I thought today Reinders looked quite good. So maybe him, yeah. But to be honest, no, I'll change that. I'll go for Cherki. I think if Ryan Cherki performs to his best and you can see him improve, and I think we're going to be seeing City have one of the best attacking talents in European football. And if he fits in with that side and links with those players around him, the sky's the limit for him. So I'd say Ryan Cherki.
Okay. For Stevie, are you satisfied with the Liverpool defence for their upcoming title defence?
I think so, yeah. Yeah, I think every club in the Premier League would have signed Kerkez if they got the chance, if they were able to. Frimpong's a bit different, but don't forget you got Bradley there, so depending on what happens with Frimpong, you've always got Bradley who can do both jobs. He can go forward and he can defend. And you've still got the partnership from last season, and Kanate and Virgil van Dijk with Alisson in goal. And you've got Kashvili pushing Alisson in goal. So yeah, I think defensively they look solid.
For everyone, we've seen several players complaining about the weather. What's the worst weather you've played in?
Well,
in terms of heat,
cold and wet weather in Scotland, but in terms of heat, Washington DC, World Cup warm-up matches, end of May, beginning of June, and DC at the old stadium down there, which I can't remember the name, the old Washington Stadium.
RFK.
Yeah.
RFK, shocking. You can't breathe.
It was hot.
Boiling.
It was hot, Doc.
We went with Real Madrid just as reporters, and everyone warned us, get some water, get this, you need to be careful in there.
Imagine having to do 90 minutes on there.
I would have hated it. It was awful just standing there.
Awful. I was knackered there as well when I was sat on the bench coaching the team. In terms of Mexico, World Cup, Mexico, I think we kicked off at 2 o'clock in the afternoon. I mean, you can't run. Well, tell a lie. You can run, you can have a burst, but then it takes you 5 minutes to recover before you're able to have another burst. But fortunately, everybody was in the same boat on both sides. So you kind of got away with it. But yeah, it was madness. Madness.
Nedum?
I think the heat thing is massive. And having played in America like Stevie as well, playing in places like Florida, even in like Kansas City and such in the summer is so difficult.
Dallas is fun, Nedum,
isn't
innit?
Play games during daytime, so I think some of these teams, they're playing in the Club World Cup. Oh my gosh, goodness gracious me. So yeah, when you're playing like for the Club World Cup during the daytime as well, that's as tough as it gets. But I think my worst one was in 2012. We actually went on a pre-season tour to Malaysia and Indonesia, and it was like 40 degrees. The humidity felt like it was 100%. That's as tough condition as I've ever had to play in. And I think I've only just stopped sweating now, 13 years on.
Frank, what about you?
Definitely in Qatar. I played when the first time I went there. We had to train even at 9 p.m. It was like 40 degrees at 9 p.m., which is like 110 degrees, I would say, in Fahrenheit. And I had to run with a pack of ice. I mean, I had a headache like that. That was insane. It's crazy because you get used to it. 2 years after, I had to play the Emir Cup, same weather, 9 p.m. We played 2 hours, the final, and I could run without suffering. But the first, let's say, month, that was awful.
Okay.
Well, nobody feels sorry for you, Frank.
Oh no, I don't ask you to feel sorry.
You
That's all right.
You took the money. You knew what you were going for, didn't you? Hey,
Yeah, that wasn't the point.
I
That
would've
wasn't the
done that,
question.
no.
That wasn't the point.
Even
No,
I-
it
even I
wasn't.
would've done
It
it.
wasn't the balance of suffering and million. That wasn't something. That the question was not about that. You know.
oh, I had to run with the ice in my hand. I'm putting all the money in the bank. Oh, bit of ice.
Oh, that's it. Just remember, tomorrow will be 24 days.
Well, I don't count that.
Okay.
I'm not in. I'm only actually it's 25 days to the end of this Mickey Mouse tournament, but that's 25 days of watching games if you watch a game every day.
So you only count the days that you watch.
If you think the days that I'm not working, I'm watching that guff, find me a person that will. Find me a person that will. Don. Hey, we've got there's 3 people that work on this show. They've all gone to take the coin.
I know.
McManaman, Luis Garcia, who'd got the opening of a packet of chips, and Don. Wow, Don's
Don
probably paid them.
Kieran Gibbs.
If Don
Gibbs
wasn't
doing it as well?
commentating,
Gibbs is doing it as well.
no, he's not.
I think he is. I actually do think I saw some pictures
Is
of
he?
him doing it, yeah, down in Miami.
The thing with Don is, if Don wasn't actually
Has
commentating,
anybody told Kieran
Hey,
Gibbs that he's
hey,
doing it? Does he know that he's doing it?
If Don wasn't commentating, you know he's watching it.
He's gone to it. No, he's gone to it.
God. Do you want me on today, Pete? I'll come on and talk about Inter.
They're all there saying, oh, isn't this fantastic, this Club World Cup.
on.
If they were playing, they'd be moaning like hell. Oh, we should be on holiday. Oh, we shouldn't be doing this.
Put the ball away, Don.
Don's walking around with his ball under his arm.
Really looking forward to
Okay.
this one. 25 days.
We will continue to talk about the Club
13th
World
of
Cup
July.
every day on ESPN FC. Thank you
Final.
so much for sending in your questions. Please send all questions, Club World Cup ones included, here to Extra Time. See you next time.